This extraordinary vaccine advert did the rounds on social media recently before being removed by the Toronto health authorities who were responsible for it.
Mom, can I go outside and play with my friends?
No, honey, there's still something going around.
Okay.
The advert is ridiculous. It is inconceivable that such an obvious COVID zombie of a mother wouldn't already have her daughter, who wouldn't have any choice in the matter, absolutely injected up to the eyeballs, and it's inconceivable that a 12-year-old girl being held basically under house arrest wouldn't do absolutely anything to get out, and not just sit looking wistfully out of the window. So the situation is sheer fantasy land, and it was pulled on the apparent basis that it was racially insensitive. This is an obvious lie. It was pulled because it was outrageous propaganda, even by recent standards, and based on a completely false premise. In the first instance, according to the woman who was the chief woman of the moment back then,
I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection, and I think we overplayed the vaccines.
And in the second instance, you think the White House COVID coordinator is an authoritative source. Try the CEO of the company who is responsible for the vaccine. From last month, I would like to let you know that I have tested positive for #COVID-19. I am thankful to have received 4 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. Thankful. You'd think he'd be embarrassed at this point. 4 doses, but still carrying on. And in the third instance, The Lancet published in June this year. There was also a significantly higher likelihood of confirmed SARS-CoV-2 infection after the first and second doses in participants who had been vaccinated versus those who had not. And that's the data, which is pretty easy to read. The Lancet scientific journal, backing up all those videos I did a few months ago of the COVID vaccine surveillance reports. So it would be fair to say at this point that this wistful little mite is being kept under house arrest totally pointlessly. And the advert's message is now also radically undermined by the boss of the world.
Is the pandemic over?
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over.
So on the one hand, Canada is targeting toddlers, while just down below they are putting out the strangest of ads, seemingly warning about the consequences of exactly what it is that Canada is propagandizing for.
I've been into fashion since I can remember. But one day I had a stomachache so bad I didn't want to do anything. The team at New York Presbyterian said it was actually my heart. It was severely swollen. Something called myocarditis. But doctors gave me medicines and used machines to control my heartbeat. They saved me. So now I can become the next great fashion designer.
When I first saw that, I thought it had to be a hoax video, but on closer inspection, if you look, you can see that it's carrying the official New York Presbyterian Hospital stamp, so it is definitely genuine. With anything else, you'd say they were just advertising the services of the hospital, but with the focus on myocarditis, it looks like they're advertising the services of the hospital, but also trying to focus people's minds on the idea of these heart-related problems, which are not normal, even if they are now starting to become pretty normal. And since there's a lot of suspicion out there that it's actually the COVID vaccines which are behind these newfangled heart problems, you've got the one advert which advertises the vaccination for children, while you've got the other advert which seems to unwittingly or otherwise warn against it. Take the vaccine, children, take the vaccine. Myocarditis, children. Hang on, isn't that because of the vaccine though? It struck me as contradictory and a little ironic. And while Canada seems to be doubling down, Denmark actually fully backed out some time ago from their public health bunch. From the 1st of July 2022, it was no longer possible for children and adolescents aged under 18 to get the first injection, and from 1st of September 22, it was no longer possible for them to get the second injection. The nations are not singing from the same hymn sheet on this subject, and in terms of the causes of these newfangled problems, it would seem logical that both the virus, COVID-19, and the vaccine could be responsible in equal part, because they're basically two sides of the same coin. But this came out earlier this year. The incidence of myocarditis and pericarditis in post-COVID-19 unvaccinated patients. The host platform, MDPI, seems to have a history of controversies, but this study itself does not seem to have been found wanting in any way. You can see they had a COVID group of just short of 200,000 and a control, i.e. non-COVID group of just short of 600,000, so the control group is 3 times bigger. During the study period, 9 cases of myocarditis and 11 cases of pericarditis were detected in the COVID-19 cohort, 27 cases of myocarditis and 52 cases of pericarditis were detected in the control cohort. So, balancing for the different group sizes, the myocarditis incidents were identical between control group and test group, and with pericarditis the incidents were actually half as many again in the control group. No statistical difference in the incidence rate of both myocarditis and pericarditis was observed between the COVID-19 cohort and the control cohort. And you can see that myocarditis identicalness graphically in the table underneath. Conclusions: our data suggest that there is no increase in the incidence of myocarditis and pericarditis in COVID-19 recovered patients compared to uninfected matched controls. They point out that the low numbers, just 9 in the one and 27 in the other, make it difficult to draw definitive conclusions. But as far as it goes, however far that might be, there is no difference in terms of myocarditis incidence between COVID sufferers and non-COVID sufferers, which is in effect saying that myocarditis is not a side effect of COVID, which might be controversial and also might simply be incorrect on the basis of far too limited data. But at the end of the day, this is a randomized control trial, which we know they love so much, except possibly when they end up saying things that are uncomfortable. So it might be too early to tell, but there could be good reason to think that this wistful young lady might want to consider staying under house arrest and maintaining her current conditions, or she might end up like the young lady with stomachache. Who knew that stomachache was a symptom of heart damage?
I've been into fashion since I can remember. But one day I had a stomachache so bad I didn't want to do anything. The team at New York Presbyterian said it was actually my heart. It was severely swollen, something called myocarditis. But doctors gave me medicines and used machines to control my heartbeat. They've saved me. So now I can become the next great fashion designer.